G'day everyone, welcome back to another tipping video on the channel. Today I'm going to be going over my tips for round 2 of the 2024 AFL season. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video. And let's kick it off with my tips from last week. Okay, so my tips from round 1, the very first round with all 18 teams playing, I did get myself a 6 out of 9. A score I'd definitely take, probably around above average, top 26% according to ESPN Footy Tips. Got the Blues tip right on Thursday night. I was bullish on my Swannies to knock off the Pies, but not bullish enough to tip them, so I did get the Collingwood tip incorrect there. I tipped Essendon correct against Hawthorn, tipped the Giants correct against North Melbourne. Got the Cats tip correct, both teams pretty inaccurate with that game down at the Cattery. And I got the Adelaide tip incorrect against the Suns. Now, I do my tipping videos every Monday, so this was before I knew Walker was out, so I really should have changed my tip. A bit naive from me, but I never do like to change my tips. I just think it's a bad habit. So I stuck that for the Crows, and they almost snuck back and snatched the victory, but the Suns too good. And then for the Sunday games, tipped the Demons, expected to bounce back over the Bulldogs, and they sure did that. Easy tip really with Port Adelaide. And for the final game, I did get the Lions tip incorrect. Fremantle causing a massive ball over. They were too good on Sunday afternoon. And now for a quick look at my 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐿 tipping competition leaderboard update. Feel free to join if you haven't already. First link down below in the description. Well done to 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐿66 and the Mighty Muffin Man for getting all their tips correct in round 1. And as for who is leading the tipping competition at the moment, it is Shannon Humphreys with a total score of 20. Rightio, so let's kick off with my tips for round 2, and we start off with a toughie with the Saints hosting the Pies at the MCG Thursday night footy. And who'd have thunk it, eh? The Pies are 0-2 to start off the season, and if they drop this game here against the Saints, the next week they've got the Lions up in Brisbane, so they could genuinely be 0-4. And you'd think that's probably curtains on their season because no teams really make finals starting off 0-4. When watching them play, they've just looked really off the pace and they've just lacked that appetite and hunger to go and hunt the footy and really take the game on. Their team defence has really let them down. Sydney and JDOD have been able to expose their defence, especially in transition, so they've been able to get goals out the back and also punish the Pies off the turnover. So it's an area where Collingwood will really need to fix up, because when you look at it from a Saints point of view, they are one of the best running sides in the competition. They have a really strong team defence. They've got wingers that are accountable, that can float back, but they can also move the footy arc to arc really well. The issues I have with the Saints though is their conversion inside 50, their cohesion. And I think if you want to knock off a team like Collingwood, you just have to make them pay off the turnover and kick really accurate and put on that scoreboard pressure. So for me, if the Saints can really neaten up their inside 50 entries and hit the scoreboard well, punish the Pies through transition and off the turnover, I think they can genuinely win this game, because this could be a good time to verse the Pies while they are down and out a bit. They're really missing, of course, Nathan Murphy in defence as well. Does Charlie Dean come out of the side? But yeah, I just think Collingwood, they know this is a big game in the context of the season, and it's at the MCG, so look, they weren't able to bounce back last week, but I think they know this is a serious fixture. So for me, I'm just going to be backing in the Pies with this one. Sort of that safe tip, but I'm bullish on the Saints for this one. But yeah, I'm just expecting a bounce back from Collingwood. Can't see them playing awful once again. So for me, the Pies will get the job done here and kick it up again with their hunger and appetite, the footy, and their use in their forward half. So the Pies will win this one over the Saints. Bit of a cagey affair. I think a few lead changes will occur, but Collingwood run away with it in the end and win this one by 14 points. For the Friday night game now, we have the Crows hosting the Cats at Adelaide Oval. The Crows' first home game of the season, and we all know Adelaide, great side last year at home, so expect them to play much better football. It was poor conditions last week, and against the Suns, they were just unable to really suit the conditions as good as Gold Coast were able to. As for the Cats, they ticked the boxes and got the job done over the Saints. They were really inaccurate in front of goal, and when you look at it, they probably could have won that game by a few more goals. I felt their team defence was really good whilst defending ball movement against the Saints. Tom Stewart and Jack Henry were fantastic in the air, and that's going to be key, I think, especially if Taylor Walker comes back in the team, if they can really control the skies. Also, 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 out of the side as well. The Cats could really take control of this game. When you just look at Geelong's forward line, so many plays that can hurt you. We saw last week Ollie Dempsey the newly announced Rising Star nominee from last week, kicking 3 goals. So if he isn't on song this game on Friday, maybe it could be a Brad Close or Tyson Stengel. And looking at Adelaide's inexperienced defence, it's going to be a tough task for them on Friday night for sure. So the onus is on those probably inexperienced types like Max Michelani and James Borlase. The midfield battle will be an interesting one as well. Dawson wasn't at his absolute best last week, so expect him to really show his true self at home. Whilst alongside the best on ground from last week, Paddy Dangerfield, with just his ability to win clearance and get a lot of inside 50s and forward territory. Some of the youngsters too, like Tanner Bruin and also Max Holmes, were very good around the ground and especially around the football too. So hey, if this Geelong midfield can get on top of Adelaide, who tend to be really good at home and show tremendous heat around the footy, they could really get up here, and I just like the classiness in their forward half, really unselfish players. But for me with this one, I did make the bold call that I think Adelaide could genuinely be undefeated at home this year, so I'm bullish on them still. It was a hard game to get a grasp of last week because of the conditions, and you know, Gold Coast is a tough trip too, so I think with a big home crowd, the Crows kick off their home season campaign with a win here over the Cats. So I reckon they'll get it done. I'm expecting Walker to come back and they'll win this one over the Cats. In KGF, I think this one can really go back and forth, but the Crows get a tight one and win a classic by 7 points. And for the Saturday games, first one up we have North Melbourne hosting the Dockers at Marvel Stadium, 1:45 p.m. North Melbourne, a gallant display last week against GWS, but their defensive woes is going to be an issue, I think, especially when you look at it from a tipping perspective. They have, from what we saw last week against GWS, a really good ability to attack with that new North ball system they're implementing, with a lot of hand passes and a lot of scoring chains with transition, but they just get really killed off the turnover. The classy side of GWS were able to make them pay off the turnover down the other end, and with a side like Fremantle, who were very good moving the football against Brisbane last week, they dominated the skies. They're just ferocious pressure around the footy, especially their tackling ability. The midfield was fantastic as well. I expect the Dockers to get a good grasp on North Melbourne here. But considering this one's at Marvel Stadium, I think you've got to be slightly open to the idea that the North could really come to play and cause maybe a bit of a tough time for the Dockers here. Look at some performances from last year. They almost beat Sydney at Marvel. They almost beat Essendon at Marvel. So yeah, I think that could be a bit of a challenge here for the Dockers, but I just love their midfield last week. They look on song. They looked good defensively with their intercepting game, like Luke Ryan was fantastic, and their forwards were humming too. So if they can apply that heat and yeah, just move the footy really well. I loved when they were just going inside 50. They were a joy to watch last week, so I think they continue that form into Melbourne and they'll knock off the Kangas here with a good team display once again for round 2. So the Dockers will win this one, knock off North, and they'll win good by 29 points. Next game up, we've got the Hawks taking on the Demons at the MCG. This should be a great test for the Hawks because I felt their midfield was really disappointing in their head out last week against Essendon. And for sure, their midfield core will know that they'll have to turn up against Melbourne's, who, yeah, their midfield, their brand of just that strong defense and contest was back against the Bulldogs last week. Tough on the inside, and their ability to move the footy on the outside was really impressive. They played a really high mark system last week. The D's had around 130 marks. They controlled the football well against the Bulldogs, and Hawks' defence, from watching last week, does have its issues. So if the Demons can have that fast transition ball movement like we did last week, expect the Demons to get on top here. But there was a bit of upside from the Hawks last week. They were really inaccurate in front of goal. They controlled some parts of the game against the Dons, especially in the first half. They could have been up by a few goals last week. I think when you do look at the Hawks forward line, it's a forward line that boasts talent, but probably lacks a bit of that, chemistry and experience when playing with each other, like, you know, Jack Ginnivan and Mabior Chol's first game. But really, if they can improve their conversion on the scoreboard, this one could be maybe a close affair. But you know, Melbourne were good against the Bulldogs last week, and I just expect them with their seasoned bodies and more of an experienced side to get the number here over the Hawks. So, yeah, I'm going to be backing in Melbourne with this game, but I'm excited to see how the Hawks will bounce back last week. They showed upside with how they played, but I just think the D's will be too good for them. So Melbourne to win this one and win it by 22 points. For Saturday night, we've only got the one game, the Swans hosting the Dons at the SCG. Always an interesting matchup, these two sides. I think you can't just write off one team necessarily because, you know, there's been times throughout stages over the years, like 2022 when Essendon were looking poor. Everybody tipped Sydney in that game at the MCG, and then Essendon come out and win. These sides always seem to turn up against each other. So I think this one could genuinely be a chance for Essendon to nick. It is going to be quite hard though. The Swans are looking like one of the most informed teams in the competition. Let's remember, I mean, their ball movement has been pretty much the best in the competition. Their midfield's been great. They've been strong defensively. They are just ticking the boxes. They're looking fantastic in really every facet of their game. And also they are going to be without Mason Redman, who is suspended, so that could kill a bit of their drive from half-back. So expect Nick Martin to hold significant importance when holding down the line, staying a kick away from the contest. How will their midfield go? I know that Darcy Parish will come back in most likely, so that will definitely help them with their ability to win footy. And hey, Archie Perkins was brilliant last week. Can he back himself with another great performance in the midfield? So they're going to be interesting. They've got a forward half that can really hum together and really hit the scoreboard. So I'm not going to be instantly writing off Essendon here. I genuinely think they can win this game because I like to turn up well against the Swannies, but yeah, the Swans are just in sensational form, so I think you still probably got to back Sydney here. But if you have the balls, hey, definitely go with the Dons. But I just think the Swans, just every facet of their game is looking 𝐓𝐿𝐴, and I reckon they will knock off Essendon here at home. Yeah, this one could be a bit tight, but just the Swannies class cruises away and wins this game by 19 points. For the Sunday games now, first one up, we've got the Bulldogs hosting the Gold Coast Suns at Mars Stadium. So this one in Ballarat. The Bulldogs usually turn up and play good footy at this venue. However, there are some questions on the Bulldogs at the moment. Their performance against the Demons, for the most part, I thought was very disappointing. Alongside some, how should I put this, unorthodox decisions from Luke Beveridge in the box. With some selection calls and subbing off the likes of Riley Sanders. I just haven't really seen anything different from last year. So it's only been one game from them so far. But, you know, their ability to defend ball movement was again concerning on the weekend. Their midfield really dropped off in that second half. And when you're looking at the midfield from a Gold Coast perspective, I mean, their midfield has been pretty much the key reason to their success to kick off the season 2-0. They've just been absolutely bullying opposition's midfields at the moment. Tuke Miller, Flanders, Rowell, Anderson, just those core of players really get on top. They have a very strong ability to win clearance and get it forward, and going inside 50 Gold Coast, they've been much better from what we've seen from last year. So it's been a key part, their midfield, to their success. And just when I look at this from a four-quarter point of view, I just don't know about the Bulldogs. I don't know if I can trust them yet. I just think I have to sort of see it to believe it for me to tip them. So for the Doggies, if they can really hold down their back six when defending transition, and look, marking inside 50, they were okay at. It was just their general cohesion when going inside 50. They could probably get up here, given it is a home game, and we don't know about Gold Coast away because they're yet to play away from home. They could win it, but yeah, I'm just going to be backing in the Suns. They're a team in really good form at the moment. I'm loving their midfield, and if they can really quell the types of Bontempellis and especially Liam Jones's influence back there, I think they win this game. So the Suns, a close one by 11 points. Next Sunday game, we've got the Tigers hosting Port Adelaide at the MCG. Richmond, much better last week. I was expecting a bounce back against the Blues, and considering the circumstances, no lovers lost from their end. You know, they had Tyler Young go down. Such a shame with 𝐓𝐿𝐴 going down with another long-term injury, so that's going to hurt them definitely this season with their key position stocks. Will Noah Bolter be thrown forward, or will he be thrown back into defence and kept there? Most definitely going to be a good test against Port Adelaide. They got the job done over the Eagles last week. A bit of a soft kill, so they'll want to turn up for this game. Now, with the Eagles last week, from watching them, they had a really good ability to win clearance, and they had some nice goals with transition. They had some nice scoring chains, so that's maybe a bit of a weakness where Port will definitely want to tighten the screws on. Just their ability to win a lot of footy out of the midfield. Because Richmond, especially at home, they are a side that can really hurt you if they get really high intensity around the footy. Get the chaos footy inside 50, you know, they could really get on top. They did win the contested battle against the Blues last week. I think with 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴's appointment, he's going to adopt a sort of Melbourne type of style of having a high priority on winning the contested ball. So if they can win that midfield battle, they're generally a smoky for me. I think the Tigers really get up here because it's the venue. The venue is a big one for me because Port have always been questionable at the MCG. They haven't played their absolute bestest footy at this venue. Meanwhile, for the Power, it's sort of hard to get a grasp on them just given that fixture and that result last week. So do they come out and play their best footy, or do they go into their shells? From what we did see, the recruits like Sidor were quite good in the ruck, and �𝐓𝐴𝐥𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐪 𝐈𝐻𝐾 were really good in the air with intercepting. So I'll be brutally honest, I'm actually really tempted to tip Richmond here. I think they could really get this win. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. This is just a fixture I can really see them winning, but look, I'll back in Port Adelaide. Just their classiness around the ground. Their role plays were fantastic last week. Their field kicking was great too. So if they can really punish Richmond off the turnover, which a few teams so far have been able to do, like the Suns in opening round, Dan Houston, Kane Horn, those types of Butters and Rosie can get on top. I think, Port Adelaide run with this one. So, yeah, expect Richmond to turn up, but Port get a close one here and win this one by 14 points. And for the final game of the round, we've got the Eagles hosting the Giants at Optus Stadium. Now, last time these two sides met at this venue, the Eagles got a massive upset over GWS. This was actually round 2 last year, but a lot has happened since then. GWS have completely turned around their footy club in terms of ability. They are now looking like one of the top teams in the competition, whilst for the Eagles, probably going to be another long season for them. They had a great effort against Port Adelaide. They had a good ability to win clearance throughout that game. They matched physicality quite well throughout stages of that game against Port Adelaide. So why can't they, to open their season at home, come and really just give a good crack against GWS? Maybe win a quarter or two, maybe start off the game well. But let's be honest, you probably have to be a fool to tip against the Giants here, looking like one of the best teams in the competition. The overall team chemistry is what really impresses me. They're just all playing the same wavelength. They move the football really well. They're getting a few soft fixtures early on here. They got a good win over North Melbourne last week, so they should stroll into Perth here and get the result over West Coast. They're looking like a completely good side all across all facets of the game. Inside 50, they've got dangerous targets. They defend well as a back six, and especially their ball movement kills teams. So they should get the win here over the West Coast Eagles and win well to round out round 2 by 43 points. So overall now, my tips for round 2 of the 2024 AFL season. Feel free to let me know what you did think of my tips in the comments down below, and also feel free to comment down below your tips as well. Always love to hear your people's opinions, and that's pretty much it from me, fellas. Hopefully you did enjoy, and with that said, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.